My house would not remember me. The key I had used for 20 years scraped and stuck like a lie, and the brass knob was cold as a stranger's hand. I knocked. A porch light blinked on. A shadow moved behind my curtains, but no one opened. My phone buzzed in my palm. When my daughter answered, her voice had no softness left. "It's our house now, you old bum." Then a man's shout bled through the speaker. "We're selling it to pay off my debts." The line shook in my hand, yet my voice did not. "I see," I said, and I ended the call. I looked at the black glass of the window and saw a tired face stare back. I put the useless keys in my pocket and texted my lawyer 4 words. Our plan worked. Down the block, a car engine turned over. Someone waited with their lights off. My name is Harlan Cole. I am 67 years old, a retired lineman who climbed poles through sleet and August heat. I worked quiet, steady years so my family could sleep warm. I laid pipes in basements that smelled of wet soap and mold, carried ladders across icy yards, and once held a live wire like a snake until the boy's breathing came back. My wife, Adela, died when the dogwoods were blooming. After that, I poured myself into my daughter, Maris. I saved. I fixed fences for neighbors who forgot to pay me, and I told myself grace was its own reward. I did not chase big dreams. I kept our house, a square-faced blue thing with a porch swing and old nails in the banister from when Maris hung school banners. When I left for my first real vacation in a decade, a train west to look at the ocean, I locked that door, kissed the wood, and promised I would come back to it whole. Maris used to have a laugh that hopped like a songbird. She used to hold my wrist when she wanted to show me a picture on her phone and say, "Dad, look." Then she met a man named Dax Whitmore. He had hair like a commercial and eyes that slid off you. He sold things that did not exist yet. Shares in an app, space in a storage yard, hope for men who wanted shortcuts. He brought champagne to holidays and spoke in numbers that sounded like fireworks. Maris said he was a builder. I saw him borrow tools and never returned them. He called me sir with a grin I did not like. When he married Maris in a rented barn, his vows were long and smooth, but his hands shook while he spoke them. I gave him the deed to a starter home I had purchased at auction and fixed up in the winter. He flipped it without telling Maris and called it smart money. I learned to count different numbers. The nights Maris called and did not say much. The text that came late and had no punctuation. The way she laughed smaller. When the bank sent me a letter with my name misspelled and a line that said, "Transfer request pending," I drove to the branch. The young manager wore a tie the color of milk chocolate and said my daughter had power of attorney from a form I never signed. He smiled like he was apologizing to a mirror. I thanked him, asked for copies, and went home. I went to see a woman named Rhea Doyle, my late wife's friend from church, who had become a lawyer after she buried her own. Rhea wore scuffed boots and kept 2 pens in her hair. She looked at the paper, then at me. "Let me guess," she said. "A smooth son-in-law, a notary who never met you, and a daughter who still thinks she is saving someone." I nodded. Rhea leaned back and tapped her boots against one another. "We will need to let them think they are winning," she said. So I took a vacation. I booked it with points I had stored like harvest grain. I left a week later than I told Maris, and I kept a room in a small motel on the edge of town under another name. I watched my house at night from the bleached parking lot and learned the new habits my family kept behind my old curtains. A man hauled boxes in. A woman argued on the porch swing with the chain creaking like it might break. A notary's car idled in my driveway in the afternoon. Rhea filed papers behind the scenes and waited for a judge to read them. We set traps that were not really traps. We set truth where lies would stumble. The night before I tried my keys, I walked the sidewalk and touched the fence posts. I counted the boards I had replaced the summer after Maris turned 12. I thought the first time I showed her how to hammer a nail, how she stuck her tongue out with effort and smiled when the head set flush. Now the porch light burned white and gave my skin a tired, chalky color. A new sticker sat on my door's glass, "For sale by Whitmore Realty." My name was still etched on the mailbox in my wife's careful hand, but a strip of tape tried to cover it. They had not done it clean. I peeled the edge of the tape up with my nail and found the A of Adela untouched. It felt like someone I loved had left me a note. The street smelled of cut grass and the hot dust of late summer. A sprinkler ticked on somewhere, steady as a clock. I pocketed the peeled tape and stepped back to the sidewalk. The black sedan at the corner hummed. Its headlights stayed off, but I felt its attention like breath on my neck. I sent Rhea another text. Out front. They changed locks. She replied fast. Good. Let them touch everything. A window curtain inside shifted. For a second I saw Maris. She was thinner. Her hair was pulled tight. She looked out like a person searching for weather. She did not see me. Or maybe she did and turned away. That was the part one could not know yet. I wanted to knock again. I wanted to say the sentences a man rehearses when he is wounded. Instead, I took a photo of the door, the sticker, the porch rail. I lifted the doormat and looked for the spare key I had never kept there. Nothing. I knelt and touched the threshold. My knees cracked, and the sound made the dog 2 houses down lift his head and growl. I stood, slow like metal warming. On the other side of the street, the sedan door clicked open. A man stepped out, tall and narrow, a tie loosened at his throat. He checked his watch and started toward me. I did not run. I am a man who learned to hold things steady when they shake. The man came close and spoke like he had come to deliver news instead of take it. Mr. Cole? Dax asked me to make sure the property is secure. He said property and not home. He had a clipboard. He had the smile of someone who has sold the same lie often enough that he might believe it for an hour at a time. You can talk to our office in the morning, he said. You have no legal right to be here. I nodded as if I agreed, as if my bones did not remember every nail in this porch. I will talk to someone, I said. I looked past him at my curtains. The porch light flickered once, then steadied. My phone buzzed again. Rhea, don't argue. Walk. I put the phone away. Have a good night, I told the man. I turned down the sidewalk, the weight of the useless keys heavy against my thigh, the black sedan cooling behind me. I headed for the corner where a second car, quiet and patient, waited in the dark. Its driver someone even Dax would not expect to see at my side. The second car's headlights flared for a heartbeat, and then dimmed again. I recognized that beat-up silver Buick before my eyes adjusted. The driver's side door opened, and a small woman with sharp shoulders and a coat too big for her stepped out. Rhea Doyle. She always looked like she was about to scold the weather. She waved me in without a word, her jaw tight, her eyes moving from the porch to the man with the clipboard who still stood by my door pretending not to watch. I slid into the passenger seat. The inside smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old leather. You were supposed to wait until tomorrow, she said as soon as the door shut. They would have finished the final signature tonight. You showing up made Dax panic. I wanted to see it once more, I said. My voice came out hoarse. You ever lose something so long, you need to touch it to believe it's gone? Rhea sighed, but she didn't argue. She started the engine and drove slow until the house disappeared in the mirror. Your daughter called the bank again today, she said. She thinks the sale will clear the debt. But the title transfer you signed? It was never notarized. The judge already issued a hold. They just don't know it yet. The words hung between us. Relief didn't come easy. So what happens now? I asked. Rhea smiled, a hard, narrow thing. Now we let them fall into their own hole. You play patient. You don't fight. You let me handle the rest. We rode in silence past sleeping houses. I watched lights blink behind curtains. Families settling in, dogs curling at their owners' feet. The kind of life I thought I built for my daughter. I wonder when exactly she had turned from my little girl into someone who could throw me away like a broken tool. I thought about the first time she had said, Dad, you don't understand. Maybe I hadn't. Maybe that was a problem. We stopped outside a diner that was half empty and buzzing with a lonely neon hum. Inside, the waitress with pink hair brought us 2 coffees without asking, which told me Rhea came here often. We got 3 pieces of the puzzle, Rhea said, spreading her notes on the table. 1. Dax forged your power of attorney with help from a friend at the title office. 2. He's using your house as collateral for a loan that doesn't exist yet. 3. Your daughter has no idea she's about to go down with him. She looked up at me. Still want to save her? The question burned. I could taste the bitterness of it in the coffee. She's still my daughter, I said, even if she's lost. Then we make her see, Rhea said, closing her folder. But Harlan, she's not going to believe words. She has to feel the ground drop out first. As we left the diner, the night had gone colder. A storm rolled somewhere distant. The air felt heavy, like it carried a secret. Rhea dropped me off at the small motel on Route 9 where I had been staying. The sign flickered, the O in motel burned out, leaving empty L, which felt fitting somehow. She leaned across the seat before I got out. Tomorrow, stay invisible, she said. They'll call you. Let them talk. When she drove off, I stood for a while, watching her taillights fade. I unlocked the door to room 12, the one that smelled faintly of bleach and old carpet. On the nightstand sat a stack of papers, copies of the forged forms Rhea had dug up, and a photograph of Adela smiling in the garden we built together. The photo frame had a crack through the glass. I ran my thumb along it. I lay down but didn't sleep much. My mind kept spinning back to the moment on the porch. Maris's face behind curtain, thin and tired. Dax's shadow moving behind her like a storm cloud. There had been a time when she brought me hot soup every Sunday after church. When she saved her allowance to buy me a tie I never wore because it was too bright. I wondered what she would say when the truth finally surfaced. Would she cry? Would she hate me? At dawn, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We know you're back. Stay away from the house. Old man. I stared at it for a long time. Then I forwarded it to Rhea. She replied almost instantly. Perfect. They're scared. That day I played the part she told me to. Quiet, patient, harmless. I went to the park near the river, fed pigeons, and waited. Around noon, I saw a black Mercedes pull up at the far end of the lot. Dax stepped out in a suit too clean for the heat. Phone pressed his ear, pacing. His gestures were sharp, frantic. He didn't see me behind the oak tree, but I saw him, and something deep in my chest began to settle. Not anger, not joy, but a kind of stillness I hadn't known in years. That night, I called Rhea again. He's unraveling. I said, Good, she answered. Tomorrow, we pull one more thread. I set up a meeting at the courthouse. Bring the original deed. We're about to show the Whitmores who really owns that house. I looked at the ceiling of the motel, water stains forming strange shapes. My keys lay on the nightstand, cold and heavy. I picked them up and turned them in my hand. Rhea, I said quietly, what if Maris doesn't forgive me after this? She doesn't have to forgive you, Harlan, she said. She just has to remember who you are. Outside, thunder rolled across the horizon. I sat in the dark, the phone still warm in my hand, and waited for morning, knowing the next knock on the door might change everything. The courthouse smelled like old wood and lemon polish, the kind of place where truth could either die quietly or be reborn in a whisper. I wore my best jacket, the one Adela bought me 15 years ago for our last anniversary, and carried a manila envelope tucked under my arm. Inside it lay every proof of my life's work. The original house deed, my pension documents, the insurance policy, and one photograph of Maris as a child, holding a toy hammer beside the half-built porch she once called our castle. Rhea waited on the courthouse steps. She had traded her boots for polished shoes and wore a navy blazer that made her look like someone the world shouldn't underestimate. They'll be here any minute, she said, checking her watch. We're not filing today. We're baiting. Baiting? I asked. People like Dax hang themselves faster when they think they've already won. Inside, we met in a small office lined with law books. The clerk, a middle-aged man with thick glasses, nodded politely when we walked in. Mr. Cole, he said, glancing at the papers Rhea placed on the table. You've been the legal owner of that property since 1994. Any sale or transfer requires your notary's consent. There's no record of that. Before I could answer, the door opened behind us. Dax Whitmore walked in with his sleeves rolled up, his smile sharp as glass. Maris followed, her eyes red-rimmed but dry. My breath caught in my throat. She looked smaller than I remembered. Dad, she said softly. I stood, but Dax stepped between us. We didn't expect to see you here, he said. This is unnecessary. We already filed everything through our attorney. Rhea crossed her arms. You filed a forgery, she said. You might want to sit down before I explain what happens next. The room went still. Even the clerk stopped typing. Dax's smile faltered, but he recovered quickly. You can't prove that. Actually, we can, Rhea said. She pulled a folder from her bag and spread photographs across the table. Copies of signatures, time-stamped emails, and a screenshot of a message from a notary who had confirmed under oath that he never met Harlan Cole. This was all submitted to the county registrar yesterday. The title is frozen pending investigation. Maris's hand flew to her mouth. Dax, she whispered. You told me. He turned toward her, his voice rising. I told you what was necessary. You wanted to save the house, didn't you? You wanted a future. I spoke quietly, the way I used when she was a child caught in a lie. A future built on lies always collapses, Maris. She wouldn't look at me. Tears brimmed but didn't fall. Dax slammed his fist on the table. You think this old man can stop me? He doesn't even live there anymore. Rhea didn't flinch. No, but he owns it, and he just pressed charges. The sheriff's deputy, who had been standing silently in the corner, stepped forward then. Mr. Whitmore, you're under investigation for document fraud and attempted property theft. I'd advise you not to say another word. For a second, Dax's mask cracked. He stared at Rhea, then at me, like he was searching for a way out. You set me up, he spat. Rhea tilted her head. No, you set yourself up. We just left the light on. Maris began to cry then. Quiet, broken sound that filled the space between us. Dad, she said again, barely audible. I didn't know. He said it was temporary, that he'd fix it before you came back. I wanted to hold her, but I stayed where I was. We'll talk when you're ready to tell the truth, I said gently. The deputy led Dax out in handcuffs. He didn't look back. Rhea gathered the papers, her expression unreadable. That's part one, she said softly. Part two is yours, Harlan. Mine. You told me once you wanted justice, not revenge, she said. Now you get to decide what that means. I looked at Maris. Her shoulders shook as she sat there, a woman undone by the man she had chosen. For the first time, I saw not betrayal but fear, the kind that comes when someone realizes the bridge they're standing on is already burned. Can I see the house? She asked after a long pause. Just once more? Rhea raised an eyebrow at me. Your call. I nodded. I'll drive. The ride back was silent, except for the sound of rain starting to fall. When we turned onto Willow Drive, the for sale sign still leaned against my porch, half fallen, the letters bleeding from the weather. Maris stared out the window. I love this place, she whispered. I don't know what happened to me. I parked at the curb. Life happened, I said. You trusted the wrong person. But the door is still standing. She reached for my hand but stopped halfway, ashamed. Dad, what if they take him to prison? He made his choices, I said quietly, and you have to make yours now. She nodded slowly. The rain grew heavier, tapping on the windshield like a metronome marking the rhythm of an ending. Rhea pulled up behind us a few minutes later, headlights cutting through the storm. She rolled down her window. The press will hear about this by morning, she said. Dax's name will sink. Yours will rise. But, Harlan, there's something you should see. The bank found another account in your name, opened 3 months ago. It's where your pension's been going. Maris's head snapped up. What? Rhea handed me a file through the window. Your daughter's signature is on it, too. The rain stopped. The silence that followed was louder than thunder. Maris turned to me, eyes wide. Dad, I swear I didn't. But the words caught in her throat as I opened the file and saw the truth written in black ink. I looked up slowly, meeting her gaze. Then tell me, Maris, I said. Who signed it? Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked past me toward the porch, and I saw fear, real, deep fear, return to her face. Because someone was standing there, watching us through the rain, a tall figure in a black coat. And I knew instantly it wasn't Dax. The rain had turned into a slow drizzle. the kind that made the street shimmer like a memory you could almost walk into. Maris gripped my sleeve as the figure stepped closer to the porch light. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a silk black coat and a hat pulled low. His face came into view, creased pale, with eyes that looked like they'd memorized sorrow. "Do you know him?" Rhea asked, her hand already on the glove box, where I knew she kept a small revolver. I squinted through the windshield. "No," I said, though something about the way he stood felt familiar. Calm, waiting, not dangerous, just deliberate. He raised one hand, palm out, the universal gesture of peace, and called out, "Mr. Cole? My name's Detective Raymond Huxley. May I come up?" Rhea relaxed, just slightly. She stepped out first, flashing her badge from under her jacket. Lawyers who knew cops learned to move like them. I followed, my shoes sinking in the soft ground. Maris stayed in the car, staring at her hands as if they held all her regrets. The detective's voice was deep, steady, and heavy with the kind of truth men carried when they'd seen too much. "Sorry to come unannounced," he said, "but there's more to your son-in-law's story than you were told." Rhea folded her arms. "We already know about the forgery, Detective." He nodded. "I'm not here about that. I'm here about a loan shark in Phoenix who claims Mr. Whitmore owed him 80 grand. Says Dax borrowed it under your daughter's name and used this house as security. And it gets worse." My stomach tightened. "Go on." 2 nights ago, someone tried to withdraw what was left in your pension fund from that fake account." Huxley continued. "We caught it because the signature didn't match. The bank froze everything, but whoever did it knew details only a family member would have. Behind us, the car door creaked open. Maris stepped out, trembling. "It wasn't me," she whispered. "I didn't take anything. I swear." The detective turned to her kindly. "Miss Cole, I believe you, but your husband had help. He wasn't acting alone." Rhea frowned. "Who?" Huxley looked toward the street, where another car had pulled up quietly, its engine ticking. The headlights switched off. "The man who notarized those forged papers disappeared last week," he said, "and his office was cleaned out. Someone else is trying to finish what Dax started." I felt the air shift. "You mean someone still wants my house?" "Wants more than that," he said. "They want the land under it." Rhea's eyes widened. "The zoning redevelopment plan," she murmured. "They're buying up every property on this block. Harlan's house is the last one holding them back." Huxley nodded grimly. "Bingo. Dax was just a pawn. Whoever's behind this has deep pockets. They used your daughter's husband to push you out quietly. But when you didn't go willingly, things got messy." Lightning flashed far off, a silent pulse that lit the detective's face. "Mr. Cole," he said softly, "do you remember anyone approaching you about selling? A developer, maybe?" I did. 3 months ago, a man named Mr. Laird had visited me. Smooth-talking, well-dressed, promising to revitalize the neighborhood. I'd told him no. He'd smiled too calmly and said, "People change their minds." Now my blood went cold. Maris's voice cracked. "Dad, Dax said the money came from investors. He said it was for us." Rhea turned to her sharply. "Investors like Laird?" Maris's eyes went wide. "Yes, he mentioned that name once. I didn't think." Huxley sighed. "Then it's bigger than your son-in-law. Laird's been laundering money through fake property transfers for years. He's under investigation, but we need evidence. Paper trails, phone logs, anything that ties him to this address." Rhea crossed her arms, thinking fast. "Then we give him a reason to reach out again." The detective nodded slowly. "Exactly what I was hoping you'd say." He turned to me. "Mr. Cole, if you're willing, we can set a trap. We'll leak word that you're signing over the house after all. Make it look like you've finally given up. If Laird bites, we catch him in the act." I looked past him at my home. The porch that still held Adela's flower pots, the wind chime she'd hung from the eaves, the window where Maris once taped up her drawings. The thought of letting anyone near it again made my chest ache. But then I remembered Rhea's words. Let them think they're winning. I nodded. "Do it, but I want to be there when it happens." Rhea opened her mouth to protest, but I raised a hand. "It's my house. My life. I won't hide anymore. Huxley gave a slow nod of respect. Then we move fast. Tomorrow we set the bait. Maris looked at me, eyes pleading. Dad, please don't do this. You've already lost enough. I turned to her gently. Then help me end it. For the first time, she didn't look away. She just nodded, tears mixing with rain. As the detective left, Rhea touched my shoulder. You sure about this, Harlan? If Laird's involved, this isn't just paperwork. These people play dirty. I stared at my house one more time. So do I said quietly. I just do it politely. Rhea almost smiled. Then let's make tomorrow the day they lose everything. We walked back to our cars. Behind us, thunder rolled again. But this time, it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like applause. The morning broke heavy with fog. It rolled through Willow Drive like breath from an old ghost, curling around mailboxes and half-dead hedges. I stood across the street from my house with Rhea and Detective Huxley, watching as a for sale sign was replaced with a new one. Pending transfer, Coal Estate. This is bait, Rhea said, her voice low. We filed the fake transfer papers today, leaked the info through one of my contacts at City Hall, and wait for Laird to make his move. Huxley nodded. He'll hear about it within hours. He's been circling this block like a hawk. Once he reaches out, we trace the call. I stare at the porch. The morning light hit the paint I'd laid down with Adele of the summer before she passed. She'd laughed as she worked, leaving small handprints on the wood. I'd never painted over them. Now, hidden under the mist, I could almost see them again. Rhea's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and smirked. It's already working. One of Laird's people just asked for a meeting. When? Huxley asked. Tonight, 7 o'clock. He wants to finalize the transaction. That was quick, I said. Desperation always moves fast, Rhea replied. He must be running out of options. Huxley looked at me. You're sure you want to be there, Mr. Cole? We can handle it without you. I met his eyes. I built the house board by board. If someone's going to try to steal again, they can look me in the eye while they do it. He nodded once, a silent agreement between men who understood dignity the hard way. By evening, the fog had lifted, leaving the world sharp and bright. The trap was set inside the house itself. The police had wired the living room with small cameras hidden in the vents and under the mantel clock. Rhea had drawn up fake sale documents that looked so real, even I almost believed them. The deed had my signature, clean and convincing. At 6:58, the black SUV pulled into the driveway. Its windows were tinted so dark they looked like mirrors. When the door opened, a tall man stepped out. Gray suit, expensive shoes, smile polished enough to sell a lie to God. Mr. Cole, he said warmly, walking up the porch steps as if he owned them. So glad you reconsidered. I'm Laird. Rhea's face was neutral, unreadable. You said you wanted to review the paperwork personally. Yes, he said, glancing around the living room as he entered. I like to keep things tidy, especially investments. He turned to me then. Beautiful home. Shame it's been empty so long. You must be eager to move on. I smiled faintly. You could say that. He sat at the dining table, pulling a pen from his pocket. I have the transfer forms ready. Once you sign these, the bank will release the funds immediately. Rhea laid the fake documents in front of him. All we need is your signature confirming the buyer's account. Of course. Laird leaned over the paper, pen poised. That was the cue. Huxley and his team waited outside in unmarked cars, listening to the microphone planted in the table leg. Every word mattered now. I looked straight at Laird. Tell me something, I said. Why this house? There are a dozen empty lots around here. Why go through so much trouble? He chuckled, not looking up. Because this one's special. There's oil under this land. The city doesn't know it yet, but my company does. When the rezoning passes next month, I'll own the rights. You're sitting on a gold mine, Mr. Cole, and you almost gave it away for free. Rhea's eyes flicked toward the hidden camera. Every word was being recorded. I kept my tone calm. Funny thing, Mr. Laird, you remind me of my son-in-law. He smiled, arrogant. Smart man, your son-in-law. Just unlucky. And a liar, I said. You two would have gotten along. Laird's pen froze. He looked up, suspicion creeping in. What's this? Rhea leaned back in her chair. This, she said slowly, is what we call evidence. The front door burst open. Huxley entered first, badge raised. Raymond Huxley, County Police. Mr. Laird, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit theft. Laird shot to his feet, his chair crashing back. You set me up. No, I said quietly, rising to face him. You set yourself up. You just picked the wrong old man. 2 officers cuffed him. As they led him out, he twisted toward me, fury flashing in his eyes. You think this is over, Cole? You have no idea who you're dealing with. Neither do you, I said. I buried tougher men than you in frozen ground. Rhea let out a breath as the door shut behind him. That, she said, was art, but I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet, because across the street, standing under a lamppost, was Maris. She'd been watching the whole thing, her face pale and still. When I walked out, she didn't move. You did it, she said softly. You saved everything. I nodded. I did what I had to. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve to come back here. Maybe not yet, I said, but this house was built on forgiveness. It has room for you when you're ready. She looked down, then back up with a trembling smile. I'll earn it, Dad. I promise. I put a hand on her shoulder. Start by being better than the people who hurt you. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of rain and cut grass. Somewhere behind us, the police car's lights flashed red and blue against the house's white siding. Rhea came up beside me. It's done, she said. They won't touch this place again. Maybe, I said, staring at the porch light flickering faintly. But sometimes winning still feels like loss. She smiled gently. Then it's time to start living again. I looked at the house, the cracked steps, the faded shutters, the place had nearly been stolen from me, and felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. Then Rhea's phone buzzed. She frowned at the screen. What is it? I asked. Her eyes darkened. The arrest transport never made it to the station. My heart dropped. What? Laird's van disappeared 10 minutes ago. The fog crept back in, curling around the street like it had never left. I looked toward the dark end of Willow Drive and felt the old ache return. Then, I said quietly, it isn't over yet. The sound of the night returned, the whisper of leaves, the slow drip from the gutters, the hum of a street lamp ready to burn out. But beneath it all was something colder, the kind of silence that follows bad news. Rhea was already on the phone with Huxley, pacing beside the patrol car. What do you mean it never checked in? She demanded. You had 2 officers escorting him. Her voice dropped sharper. No, don't say it over the radio. Call me back on the secure line. Maris stood near the porch, arms folded tight, her face pale as the moonlight. Dad, she whispered, what's happening? I didn't answer right away. My eyes scanned the street, empty except for the mist creeping low across the asphalt. They don't lose prisoners by accident. I said finally. Laird had help. Rhea ended the call and looked at me grimly. The transport van left the courthouse 10 minutes ago. Somewhere between Maine and the bridge, it vanished off the GPS. They're saying the tracker went dead. Went dead? I asked, or was killed? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Maris took a shaky step toward us. Is he coming here? Rhea looked at her. He could. Laird's not the type to go quietly. And if he realizes you 2 set him up, he'll want payback. I felt a familiar calm settle over me, the same kind that used to come when a storm knocked down power lines, and I had to climb the poles at midnight. Panic was for people who hadn't lived through worse. Then we get ready, I said. Rhea frowned. Get ready how? I turned toward the house. By making sure the next time he walks through that door, he doesn't walk out. 2 hours later, the old place looked different. The soft yellow glow from the porch was replaced by the blue-white pulse of security lights I'd installed years ago but never used. The basement hum of the backup generator filled the air. I found the old metal toolbox where I'd kept my lineman's gear and carried it upstairs. Rhea watched me lay out the contents. Wire cutters, nails, duct tape, and a crowbar older than my daughter. You planning to build something or fight a war? Sometimes it's the same thing, I said. Maris hovered by the window, phone in hand. No new updates from Huxley, she said. They're searching the bridge. Rhea rubbed her temples. If Laird's people intercepted that van, they'll want to finish what they started. He has the money, the contacts, and now a reason to make it personal. I tightened the strap on my wrist brace and looked at the door. He'll come here. He has nowhere else to go. Then we make sure he regrets it, Rhea said. By midnight, the rain had returned. It came down in slow, heavy sheets that turned the street into a mirror. Maris had fallen asleep on the couch, exhaustion pulling her under. Rhea sat beside the front window, her revolver hidden beneath a blanket, her eyes fixed on the road. I stood by the hallway, phone pressed to my ear. Huxley, I whispered. His voice crackled through static. We found the van near the old quarry. Empty, both guards tied up but alive. They said a second vehicle cut them off. Professional job. Laird's gone. Any idea where he's headed? A pause. Only one clue. They found your address written on the back of a cigarette pack. I hung up and looked at Rhea. She saw the truth in my face without me saying a word. He's coming, she said. I nodded. The clock ticked past 1. The storm deepened, wind rattling the shutters. Every creak in the floorboards sounded louder. I moved through the house quietly, checking the locks, the shadows, the corners. The air was thick with the smell of rain and old wood. Then came the noise, a soft crunch of tires on wet gravel. Rhea straightened, eyes sharp. Headlights, she murmured. Through the window, we saw them. 2 beams cutting through the rain, crawling slowly down the street, stopping in front of the house. Maris stirred on the couch, blinking. Dad. Stay down, I said, my voice low but firm. A door slammed outside. Footsteps splashed toward the porch. A moment later, a voice called out, Mr. Cole. Not angry. Calm. Too calm. Open the door, it said. We just need to talk. Rhea moved closer to the entryway, revolver in hand. I shook my head. Not yet. Another knock, harder this time. You can't hide forever, old man. You think this is over? You embarrass powerful people. They don't forgive. I looked at Rhea. He's not alone. She nodded once. Then we make them nervous. I flipped the porch light on. It flickered, then steadied, casting a pale glow through the window. Laird stood there, rain dripping off his coat, a faint smirk twisting his face. 2 men stood behind him, thick, silent, the kind who didn't speak unless paid. He lifted his hands, slightly. You've made a mess, Cole. The police? The lawyers? Cute. But you and I, we can still fix this. Walk away, Laird, I said through the glass. Before you ruin what's left of your life. He laughed, a short, hollow sound. My life? You don't understand. You think this is about a house? It's about everything that comes after it. Rhea whispered. He's stalling. I took a slow breath. Then let's stop him from talking. Before she could stop me, I unlocked the door and opened it. The rain spilled in, pooling at my feet. I stepped onto the porch, closing the distance between us. You want to finish this? I said, do it here. No more hiding behind paper. Laird's smile flickered. You're braver than you look. Age doesn't make a man weak, I said. It makes him patient. Behind me, Rhea's voice carried from inside. Police are on their way, Laird. You have about 2 minutes before they get here. He glanced at the street, realizing for the first time that no car waited for him. His men shifted uneasily. Then came the sound of sirens, distant but growing. Laird's expression hardened. This isn't over, he hissed. You can't hide from people like us. I took 1 step closer until we were eye to eye. I don't hide, I said. I endure. The red and blue lights turned the rain to fire. Officers poured out of cruisers, guns drawn. Laird raised his hand slowly, his smirk gone. As they cuffed him again, Rhea stepped beside me. You could have been killed, you know. Maybe, I said, watching the police lead Laird away. But sometimes a man has to look his demons in the face before he can bury them. Maris came to the doorway, tears streaking her face. It's over, right? Rhea hesitated. For him, maybe. I looked out at the retreating cars, disappearing into the mist. But not for us, I said quietly. Not yet. Because in the distance, beyond the flashing lights, another car sat waiting, its engine running, headlights off. Someone else was still watching. The last of the police cruisers vanished into the night, their sirens fading into nothing. Rain still whispered against the roof, but the air had changed, charged, uneasy. I stood on the porch staring down the street at the car that hadn't moved once through the whole arrest. Its engine idle like a quiet growl, headlights off, waiting. Rhea followed my gaze. You see it too? Yeah. Could be a reporter, she said, though her voice lacked conviction. I shook my head. Reporters don't sit with their lights off. Maris hovered in the doorway behind us, clutching her blanket like armor. Dad, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's one of the officers. Stay inside, I said too sharply. She nodded and stepped back. Rhea's revolver glinted under the porch light as she slid it back into her coat pocket. If they're watching, they want you to know they're watching. Question is, why? Because Laird wasn't the head, I said quietly. He was just another piece on the board. Rhea frowned. You think someone else was behind the land grab? I don't think, I said. I know. We waited another 10 minutes, but the car didn't move. Then, as if on cue, its headlights flared. It rolled forward slowly, too slow, and stopped right in front of the house. The passenger window lowered, and a beam of light flickered from a phone screen. A voice came through the rain. Mr. Cole, it said. Calm, Cole. You've made this very difficult. I stepped down from the porch until the rain hit my shoulders. Who are you? The figure in the car didn't answer immediately. Then the interior light blinked on. A woman sat in the driver's seat. Expensive coat, hair pulled back in a bun that looked carved, not worn, eyes that didn't blink. Rhea stiffened beside me. Evelyn Laird, she muttered. The widow? Not widow, the woman said through the open window. My husband is in custody, temporarily, but I'm the one who built everything he ruined. And you, Mr. Cole, just cost me $10 million. I felt the rain sliding down my collar, cold and steady. Maybe you shouldn't build fortunes on other people's homes. She smiled thinly, spoken like a man who never learned how the world really works. Rhea took a step forward. You should leave before I make a call you won't like. Evelyn ignored her. You think you've won, Mr. Cole, but all you've done is delay the inevitable. The city council already approved the rezoning. You'll get a new notice next month. Eminent domain, they'll call it. They'll pay you a fraction of what this land is worth, and tear it down anyway. I didn't flinch. Maybe, I said, but by then, you'll be too busy fighting the charges your husband just handed you. Her eyes glinted. You think the law scares me? I am the law in this town. Something in me hardened then, the part of me that had been quiet too long. Ma'am, I said slowly, I've climbed power poles in lightning, pulled men out of fires, and buried a wife who deserved a better world than this. You don't scare me, and you don't own me. The smile vanished. Her tone shifted, sharp and cold. Careful, Mr. Cole. You still got a daughter, don't you? Rhea's hand went to her gun. That's enough. I took one step closer to the car. You touch her and you'll regret it. Evelyn held my gaze, unflinching. Then she rolled the window up, her expression unreadable. The car reversed slowly, turned, and disappeared into the fog without a sound. For a long moment, none of us spoke. Finally, Rhea said, She's bluffing. She doesn't bluff, I said. That's a woman who finishes what her husband starts. Maris came out, her voice trembling. What did she say? Nothing important. I lied. Just noise. But inside, I felt the old storm brewing again, the one that comes before something breaks. By morning, the rain was gone. The world smelled like wet soil and quiet revenge. Rhea sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, typing fast. "I'm filing an injunction today," she said. "If Evelyn Laird tries to use eminent domain, we'll challenge it. But this won't be easy. She has influence." "I've fought harder odds," I said. Maris brought me coffee and sat across from me, eyes heavy from sleeplessness. "Dad, I'm sorry for everything." I looked at her over the rim of my mug. "Sorry doesn't fix what's broken," I said softly, "but it's a start." She nodded. "I'll testify against them. Whatever you need." That was the first time in months I believed she meant her words. Rhea's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it and swore under her breath. They moved faster than I thought. Evelyn's already petitioned the court for early acquisition. She's trying to get control before the charges hit. "Then we move faster," I said. She hesitated. "There's another option. Something that might end this once and for all." "What is it?" Rhea looked at me steadily. "We make the story public. Every lie, every forgery, every threat. We take it to the press and let the world see what she really is." Maris looked up, fear flickering across her face. "If we do that, she'll come after us harder." "Maybe," I said, "but the truth has a way of burning people like her." Rhea nodded slowly. "I'll set it up, a live interview, tomorrow morning. You tell your story, Harlan. No lawyers, no tricks, just the truth." I looked out the window at the front yard, the same patch of grass I'd mowed for 30 years. The house stood quiet, waiting. It wasn't just wood and nails anymore. It was proof that I'd lived right, even when the world didn't care. "All right," I said finally. "Let's tell them everything." Rhea smiled faintly. "Then you'd better get some sleep. Tomorrow, the country will know your name." But sleep didn't come easy that night, because just before dawn, a single car slowed in front of the house again. A black SUV, the same one Evelyn had driven. It paused for a moment, engine rumbling low, and then something small landed on the porch with a dull thunk. By the time I reached the door, the car was gone. At my feet lay a white envelope. On it, in neat handwriting, were the words, "You won't live to see your interview." The envelope felt heavier than paper should. Its edges were dry, sharp against my fingertips, though the world outside still glistened with dew. Rhea and Mara stood behind me as I tore it open. Inside was a single photograph, my house, taken from the street last night, and a red circle drawn over my bedroom window. Beneath it, one line scrawled in neat handwriting. "Tonight it ends." Maris gasped. "Dad, we have to leave. Please." Rhea was already on the phone. "Huxley, it's Doyle. We've got a direct threat. Bring a unit now." "No, not later, now." But deep down, I knew Evelyn Laird didn't make idle threats. This wasn't fear for her. It was control. She wanted to show that she could still reach into my life whenever she pleased, that even behind my own door I wasn't safe. I folded the photo and set it on the kitchen table. "We're not running." Rhea turned to me. "Harlan, don't do this. This isn't some property dispute anymore. It's organized crime. I've run from nothing my whole life," I said quietly, "and I'm not about to start now." By evening, the house was under police watch. A cruiser parked at the end of the block, lights dimmed, 2 officers stationed inside. Rhea stayed close, pacing the living room, her revolver never far. Maris helped pull curtains tight, her hands shaking as she worked. But I didn't feel fear anymore, just a strange stillness, the kind that comes when everything finally makes sense. "Dad," Maris said softly as we checked the locks one last time, "why won't you let them take us somewhere safe?" "Because they took enough from me already," I said. "This is my home. If I leave, they win." The clock ticked past midnight. Rain began again, gentle, almost kind, the kind of rain Adela used to love, saying it made the world clean. Then the lights went out, all at once. Rhea cursed under her breath. "Generator," she said, darting for the basement. But I knew better. The hum of the backup system didn't start. This wasn't a power cut. It was sabotage. "Maris," I said calmly, "stay low." A shadow moved outside, crossing the porch. Then came the creak of the front steps. Rhea reappeared, pale but steady. Someone cut the main line. Before she could finish, the front door exploded inward, splintered wood and rain flying in. Two men in dark coats stormed inside, their faces masked, eyes hidden behind goggles. One held a knife, the other steel rod. Mara screamed. Rhea fired once. Glass shattered, and one man stumbled back, clutching his arm. The other lunged, grabbing the revolver. They struggled, the sound of metal against skin echoing through the dark. I didn't think. I moved. The crowbar I'd left by the door felt heavy in my hand. As I swung it hard across the man's shoulder, he dropped to his knees with a grunt. Rhea kicked the gun free and fired again, this time hitting the floor inches from his leg. "Police are outside," she hissed. "Move again and you won't get a warning." The man froze. The second one staggered to the porch, bleeding and collapsed in the rain. Red lights flashed seconds later as Huxley's team swarmed the yard. Rhea exhaled hard, her hands trembling for the first time. "You all right?" I nodded. "Better than him." Maris ran to me, shaking. "Dad, they could have killed you." I looked down at the crowbar, its edge glinting faintly in the light from the returning power. "They tried," I said, "but they forgot whose house this is." An hour later, the police had cleared the scene. The two attackers were taken into custody. Huxley stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his hat. "They talked," he said quietly. "Evelyn hired them. Promised double if they made it look like a robbery gone wrong." Rhea folded her arms. "So, she's finally overplayed her hand." "More than that," Huxley said, handing her a small black device. "Found this in her car. A recorder. She's been logging every conversation she's had with her husband, her buyers. Everything. She planned to use it as leverage if things went south." Rhea pressed play. Evelyn's voice filled the room, sharp, confident, ruthless. "And when the old man's gone, we liquidate the block. His death seals the deal. Dax will take the blame, and the rest moves clean." Maris covered her mouth. "She wanted you dead, Dad." Rhea's eyes met mine. "This is it. This is what we needed. With this, she's finished." Huxley nodded. "She's already in custody. We picked her up 30 minutes ago, trying to board a private flight. She won't see daylight again." I sat at the table, the weight of it all finally sinking in. Months of betrayal, of lies and threats, ending not with fire, but with proof. Rhea poured 3 cups of coffee and set one in front of me. "You did it, Harlan," she said softly. "You won." I looked out at the porch where rain still fell steady, washing away the shards of glass. "No," I said. "We all did." Mara sat beside me, her hand slipping into mine. For the first time in years, it felt right. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," I said, smiling faintly, "we rebuild." 2 weeks later, my story aired on national television. Rhea sat beside me as a reporter introduced me as the man who took on corruption and won. The country saw the tapes, the forgeries, the photographs. Evelyn Laird's empire collapsed overnight. Maris started volunteering at the community center downtown, helping families fight their own housing scams. Rhea filed for retirement, said she'd had enough of other people's battles for a while. And me? I stayed in the house, fixed the broken door, repainted the porch, one board at a time. The air felt lighter now, the rooms warmer. I hung Adela's photo above the mantel again. Every evening, I'd sit on the porch with a mug of coffee and watch the sunset burn over the rooftops. People waved as they passed. Some stopped to thank me. I always told them the same thing. It wasn't courage, I said. It was memory. I just remembered who I was before the world tried to make me forget. One night, as the cicadas hummed and the wind carried the smell of rain again, I took the old keys from my pocket, the ones that hadn't fit the locks months ago. I smiled, slipped one into the new door, and turned it. It clicked. It fit. The house, at last, remembered me. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story.